Ethan was a small boy with a big heart and a mind full of curiosity. At 10 years old, most children his age spent their days running around parks, riding bicycles, or playing video games with friends. But Ethan's world was quieter. He was often confined to his home or to short visits outside because his body was weak and tired easily. He had been fighting a serious illness for years, one that no medicine could fully heal. Despite this, Ethan had a spark in his eyes that made everyone around him believe he could do anything he set his mind to. His room was filled with books. Some were about dinosaurs, some about space, and some about history. History fascinated Ethan more than anything else. He loved hearing stories of brave people and important events from the past. Among all the books on his shelves, there was one he returned to again and again, a book about heroes and soldiers, the kind who gave their lives for their country without asking for anything in return. The pictures of soldiers standing in proud uniforms, the stories of courage, and the rituals they followed captured Ethan's imagination. One afternoon, Ethan sat in his favorite chair by the window, looking at the sunlight spilling across the floor. His mother, Maria, was sitting nearby folding laundry, and his father, David, was reading a newspaper. Ethan had been unusually quiet that day, turning the pages of his history book slowly, almost as if he were searching for something beyond the words on the page. Maria noticed the seriousness in his eyes. "Ethan," she asked gently, "is there something you want to tell us?" Ethan hesitated. He had been thinking about it all morning. It was a wish he had carried in his heart for a long time, but saying it out loud made him feel nervous. Finally, he spoke in a small, steady voice. "I want to meet the tomb guards, the ones at Arlington," he said. Maria and David exchanged a glance. They knew what he meant. The tomb of the unknown soldier at Arlington National Cemetery was sacred. The tomb guards were famous for their precision and discipline, standing perfectly still in the sun and rain for hours. Many people admired them, but only a few could ever see them up close. "Ethan," David said carefully. "That's a very special wish, I know," Ethan replied. I want to see them. I want to meet them. I want to know what it feels like to stand near people who dedicate their lives to something bigger than themselves." Maria's heart clenched. She had read about children making special wishes in stories before, but hearing it from her own son, knowing how little time he had, was different. Her mind raced with questions. How could they make this happen? How could they bring their son to a place so far away, where he could actually meet the guards? But she also knew one thing. She could not say no to Ethan. Not when he had asked so quietly, so sincerely. For the next few days, Maria and David began to plan. They researched Arlington National Cemetery online, reading about the tomb, the guards, and the strict ceremonies that took place. They learned about the precise steps the guards took, the way they marched, how they changed positions every half hour, and the respect they showed to every visitor. David even found a video of a child being given a tour of the cemetery, and Ethan watched it with wide eyes, pointing at the soldiers and asking questions about every detail. Ethan's excitement was contagious. Even though he grew tired quickly, he kept asking about the guards, about the tomb, about how people could honor someone who had given so much. Maria and David tried to answer every question patiently, even when it meant repeating themselves several times. Finally, the family began to make arrangements for the trip. It was not easy. Ethan's illness meant they had to travel carefully. Doctors were consulted, special transportation was arranged, and plans were made to ensure he would be comfortable throughout the journey. Every step of the way, Ethan's determination shone through. He insisted on participating in the planning, asking about the hotels, the weather, and even the route they would take to the cemetery. On the day of the journey, Ethan woke up early. He was dressed in his favorite blue sweater, the one his grandmother had knitted for him, and a small pair of sneakers. He clutched his history book in his hands, his fingers tracing the cover as if it held a secret key. Maria helped him into the car, and David buckled him in carefully. As they drove away from home, Ethan pressed his face to the window, watching the trees and houses pass by. "Are we really going to see them?" he asked, his voice a mix of hope and disbelief. "Yes, Ethan," Maria said softly, squeezing his hand. "We're going to see them. You'll meet the guards just like you wanted." Ethan smiled, a small but radiant smile that seemed to light up the car. For a moment, the world outside seemed less ordinary, more filled with possibility. Every mile brought them closer to the place that had captured Ethan's imagination for so long. During the trip, Ethan asked questions about everything he saw. He wanted to know how soldiers trained, what made someone brave, and why people honored the unknown soldiers. Maria and David answered as best they could, often sharing their own memories of relatives who had served in the military. Ethan listened carefully, absorbing every word, every story. It was as if this journey was not only about fulfilling a wish, but about understanding courage, honor, and the meaning of sacrifice. By the time they arrived near Arlington, the sun was beginning to set. The cemetery stretched before them like a vast green carpet, dotted with thousands of white headstones. Ethan's eyes grew wide as he took it all in. The quiet rows of stones, the soft rustle of leaves in the wind, and the solemn presence of the guard standing near the tomb. Maria and David helped Ethan out of the car, supporting him carefully. His steps were slow, but he moved with determination. He held his book tightly against his chest as if it were a shield and a guide all at once. The family walked together toward the tomb of the unknown soldier, the weight of the moment settling over them like a gentle hush. As they approached, one of the guards noticed Ethan. The guard's eyes softened and he gave a small, respectful nod. Ethan's heart raced. He could not believe he was finally here, standing so close to the men he had admired from afar. He looked up at the guards, memorizing every detail, their uniforms, their posture, the way they held themselves with such discipline and pride. Ethan's parents watched silently, holding back tears. They knew this moment was more than just a wish come true. It was a gift, a memory that would stay with their son for the rest of his life. And in that moment, they also felt a sense of hope. Even though their hearts carried the pain of knowing their time with Ethan was limited, they could give him this experience, this chance to connect with something greater than himself. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the cool evening air on his face. He raised his small hand in a quiet wave, and one of the guards returned it with the same quiet respect he had seen in so many videos. For Ethan, this simple gesture meant the world. It was a connection, a recognition of courage, kindness, and honor. That night, as the family returned to their hotel, Ethan could not stop talking about what he had seen. He described the guards' movements, the solemnity of the ceremony, and how it felt to be so close to a place that honored heroes. Maria and David listened, smiling through tears, knowing that this day would stay in their hearts forever. For Ethan, the trip was not just about seeing the guards, it was about understanding bravery, respect, and the power of small acts of kindness. And for his parents, it was a reminder that even in the face of illness and uncertainty, there were moments of joy and wonder that could shine through. Ethan fell asleep that night with a smile on his face, holding his history book tightly. In his dreams, he walked among the soldiers, learning from them, and feeling proud to be part of a world that honored courage and sacrifice. It was a perfect ending to a day that would forever be remembered as the day a small boy's wish brought light and hope to a family facing a difficult journey. The next morning, Ethan woke up early, full of excitement. The previous day had been a long journey, and he had barely slept, thinking about what was ahead. Today was the day he would finally meet the tomb guards. His parents, Maria and David, noticed the energy in him and felt a mixture of pride and worry. Pride because Ethan's determination and courage were extraordinary, and worry because he was so fragile. After a light breakfast, the family made their way to Arlington National Cemetery. Ethan's small hand held tightly to his father's while Maria walked close beside him. The air was crisp and fresh, carrying a quiet weight of history and respect. The cemetery stretched as far as the eye could see, with rows upon rows of white headstones reflecting the sunlight. Every step Ethan took was careful, but his eyes were wide with wonder. "Look at all the graves," Ethan whispered. "So many people. Who gave everything?" "Yes," David said softly. "Every one of them has a story. Every one of them deserves to be remembered." They approached the tomb of the unknown soldier, the centerpiece of the cemetery. Ethan stopped, mesmerized. The tomb seemed larger and more solemn in person than in any picture or video he had seen. Standing before it were the tomb guards, tall and precise, moving with a rhythm that seemed almost like a dance, yet carried the weight of tradition and honor. Ethan could hardly believe his eyes. "Are they real?" Ethan asked in a quiet, awe-filled voice. Maria smiled. "Yes, Ethan. They are very real, and today you'll meet them." The family approached the guards, and one of them, noticing Ethan, stepped forward. His uniform was perfect, every crease sharp, every detail precise. His posture was straight and proud, but his eyes softened when he saw Ethan, as if understanding the courage it took for a young boy to stand there. "Hello, young man," the guard said kindly. "I'm Sergeant Miller. I hear you wanted to meet us." Ethan nodded, too stunned to speak at first. Then with a small, hopeful smile he managed, "Yes, I want to know what it's like to be a guard." Sergeant Miller knelt slightly to be at eye level with Ethan. "It's a big responsibility, Ethan," he said gently. "We honor those who gave everything for our country. It's not easy, but it's something very special." Ethan's eyes shone. He could feel the importance of the moment, the weight of respect in the air. He asked the guard to show him how they stood so still, how they marched, and how they performed their ceremonies. Sergeant Miller agreed, and carefully he began explaining every detail in simple words so Ethan could understand. "The way we stand, the way we march, it's all about respect," Miller said. "Every movement has meaning. We show that the sacrifice of those who came before us is never forgotten." Ethan listened closely, leaning in to catch every word. The other guards noticed his interest and joined in, demonstrating small movements and explaining the history behind each action. Ethan's face lit up with every new detail he learned. He asked questions about the soldiers who had served long ago, about their bravery and about the values that guided them. One of the guards, noticing how fascinated Ethan was, offered to let him participate in a small, supervised practice of the movements. Ethan's eyes grew wide. "Really, I can try?" "Of course," the guard said with a smile. "We'll help you. You just follow our lead." With careful guidance, Ethan tried to mimic the precise steps of the guards. His movements were small and slow at first, but he focused intently, determined to do it right. The guards encouraged him gently, correcting his stance here and there, praising his effort and concentration. "You're doing very well, Ethan," Sergeant Miller said. "It takes a lot of patience to do what we do." "You have it." Ethan's parents watched in amazement. They had never seen him so focused, so alive. His eyes sparkled and a wide smile spread across his face. It was a rare moment of pure joy, a moment that made all the pain and worry fade away. After practicing, the guards invited Ethan to stand alongside them during a small part of the ceremonial routine. He was nervous at first, but with his parents supporting him, he stepped forward. The guards moved with precision, and Ethan mirrored their movements as best as he could. Even though he stumbled slightly, the guards treated him with respect as if he were one of them. Ethan felt a sense of pride and accomplishment he had never experienced before. Standing there, even for a short time, he felt connected to something larger than himself. He understood in a way he had only imagined before what it meant to honor someone else's sacrifice. During a quiet moment, Sergeant Miller knelt beside Ethan again. "You know, Ethan," he said softly, "bravery isn't only about standing on guard. Bravery is also about facing challenges even when it's hard. You've shown that today." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. He realized that the guards weren't just people in uniform. They were role models, people who inspired others through their dedication, courage, and kindness. For the first time in a long while, he felt truly understood, truly part of something meaningful. The family spent the rest of the day at the cemetery, walking slowly among the rows of headstones, listening to stories from the guards about soldiers who had served in different wars, and learning about the traditions and ceremonies that honored them. Ethan asked countless questions, each one answered with patience and respect. The guards shared personal stories, small acts of kindness they had witnessed, and lessons they had learned about life and service. Ethan's parents felt deeply moved. They had brought their son here to fulfill a wish, but the experience had given them so much more. They saw the joy in Ethan's eyes, the pride in his posture, and the peace in his heart. They realized that this encounter was not just a gift for their son, but a lesson for the entire family about courage, respect, and the power of human connection. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with shades of orange and pink, Ethan sat quietly for a moment looking at the tomb. He felt a sense of calm he had never known before. The guards stood silently as if sharing the moment with him, understanding that this was not just a routine day, but a day of significance, of hope, and of shared humanity. "Thank you," Ethan whispered, turning to Sergeant Miller. "Thank you for letting me be here. I'll never forget this." The guard smiled warmly. "Neither will we, Ethan. You've reminded us why we do what we do. Sometimes the smallest people teach the biggest lessons." On the way back to their hotel, Ethan leaned against his father, exhausted but happy. Maria held his hand and they all shared quiet smiles, savoring the memory of the day. Ethan talked softly about the guards, the ceremonies, and the lessons he had learned. He asked if he could write down everything in his notebook so he could remember it forever. That night, as Ethan fell asleep, his dreams were filled with the faces of the guards, the rows of white headstones, and the sense of honor and respect that he had experienced. For Ethan, this day had been more than a wish fulfilled. It had been a journey into courage, respect, and the meaning of life itself. For his parents, the day had been transformative. They realized that witnessing their son's joy and growth had changed them too. The kindness and patience of the tomb guards had shown them that even small acts of generosity and respect could leave a lasting impact on someone's life. They promised themselves that they would carry this lesson forward, honoring not only the memory of their son but also the spirit of service and humanity they had seen at Arlington. As the lights dimmed in Ethan's room that night, and he drifted into a peaceful sleep, Maria and David looked at each other with tears in their eyes. They understood that this moment, this encounter, would stay with them forever. It had been more than a wish fulfilled. It had been a gift of love, hope, and inspiration that would continue to shape their lives for years to come. Ethan's heart was full, and so were theirs. In the quiet stillness of the night, they knew that sometimes the smallest wishes can leave the biggest marks, not just on those who dream them, but on everyone who is touched by their courage and determination. After their unforgettable visit to Arlington National Cemetery, Ethan's family returned home carrying memories that would last a lifetime. For Ethan, the experience of meeting the tomb guards had been a dream come true. He often talked about the day, describing every detail with excitement. The perfect movements of the guards, their stories, and the quiet dignity that filled the cemetery. Even as his body grew weaker, his spirit remained bright, nourished by the joy and inspiration he had experienced. Ethan's parents, Maria and David, noticed a change in themselves too. Seeing their son so full of life and purpose even in the face of illness reminded them of the power of kindness and courage. They began to see the world differently. The small gestures of respect and patience shown by the tomb guards had touched their hearts deeply. Maria often said to David, "It's amazing how one day, one act of kindness can teach us so much about life." As days passed, Ethan's condition slowly worsened. His parents knew the end was near, but they cherished every moment they had left with him. Each day they spent time together, reading his favorite books, looking at family photos, and revisiting stories of bravery and heroism. Ethan would often tell them about the guards, replaying the details of the day in his mind. "I felt like I was part of something bigger," he said one afternoon. "Like I could do something meaningful even if I'm small." Maria and David were moved by their son's words. They realized that Ethan had learned something profound, that bravery and honor were not only about strength or physical ability, but about the courage to face life with integrity, curiosity, and kindness. They wanted to carry that lesson forward, to honor the spirit of their son and the inspiration he had received from the guards. One morning, as the family sat together in Ethan's room, he asked a question that took Maria and David by surprise. "Can we help others like the guards help people? Even if I can't do it with my own hands, can we do it in my name?" Maria and David exchanged a glance. The idea was simple yet powerful. "Yes, Ethan," David said softly. "We can do that. We can honor the memory of this day and your courage by helping others." And so they began to look for ways to give back. They started volunteering at local organizations that supported veterans, sharing stories about the tomb guards and the lessons Ethan had learned. They organized small events to honor the military service members in their community, inviting friends and neighbors to learn about the sacrifices made by others. Ethan was thrilled to participate whenever he could, even if it was just by helping choose decorations, reading stories aloud, or writing messages of gratitude. Ethan's story began to spread. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers who heard about the boy who wished to meet the tomb guards were inspired by his courage and his family's devotion. Some sent letters of encouragement. Others donated to veteran support programs in Ethan's name. Each act of kindness reminded the family that their son's wish had grown far beyond a single day at Arlington. As the weeks went by, Ethan grew weaker, but his spirit remained unbroken. He found joy in simple things: the warmth of the sun on his face, the sound of birds singing outside his window, and the presence of his parents who never left his side. He often reflected on the lessons he had learned from the guards: patience, respect, and the importance of honoring others. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Ethan turned to his parents and said softly, "I'm glad I got to meet them. I think I understand now. Being brave isn't just about standing still or marching perfectly. It's about being kind, helping others, and doing what's right even when it's hard." Maria held back tears as she nodded. "Yes, Ethan, you've shown us that every day." When Ethan passed away peacefully a few days later, Maria and David were heartbroken, yet they also felt a deep sense of gratitude. They had been given the gift of witnessing their son's courage and the fulfillment of his final wish. They knew that his life, though short, had touched countless hearts. In the weeks and months following Ethan's passing, Maria and David focused on keeping his legacy alive. They dedicated themselves to volunteer work, helping veterans and supporting programs that honored military service. They spoke at local schools and community events about courage, respect, and the lessons learned from a small boy who dreamed big. Each story they told reminded people of the importance of kindness, honor, and the impact a single person can make. The tomb guards at Arlington, too, remembered Ethan. Sergeant Miller and his team kept a small memory of the boy in their minds, sharing his story with new recruits and visitors. They often spoke about how Ethan had reminded them why their duty mattered, how the smallest gestures of attention and respect could transform lives. Maria and David also found comfort in knowing that Ethan's story continued to inspire others. Families who learned about his journey began reaching out to volunteer, to honor veterans, or to help children with serious illnesses. Ethan's simple wish had become a ripple that spread far beyond what anyone could have imagined. 1 year after Ethan's passing, Maria and David organized a small ceremony in his memory. Friends, family, and community members gathered to celebrate his life and his courage. They invited a representative from Arlington National Cemetery, who spoke about the tomb guards and the importance of honoring those who serve. It was a quiet, beautiful gathering filled with stories, laughter, and tears, an event that captured the essence of Ethan's spirit. As Maria looked around at the people who had come together to honor her son, she realized something important. Ethan's life had been short, but it had been meaningful. His wish to meet the tomb guards had not only fulfilled a personal dream, but had also created a lasting legacy of courage, kindness, and service. It reminded everyone present that even small acts of bravery and kindness could make a difference in the world. In the years that followed, Maria and David continued to volunteer and advocate for veterans, always carrying Ethan's story with them. They visited Arlington occasionally, standing quietly at the tomb of the unknown soldier, remembering the day their son's wish came true. Each visit was a reminder that life, even when fragile and fleeting, could inspire hope, connection, and transformation. Ethan's story became a symbol of hope for families facing similar challenges. Parents shared it with their children, teachers told it in classrooms, and communities used it to teach lessons about empathy, courage, and compassion. It was a reminder that even a small child could leave a lasting impact on the world, simply by expressing a wish, showing curiosity, and inspiring those around him. Maria and David often spoke about how the tomb guards had changed their lives. The kindness and patience they had shown to Ethan had set an example for the entire family. "They taught us about respect, courage, and service in ways we will never forget," Maria said. "They reminded us that even in the hardest moments, humanity and compassion can shine through." Though Ethan was gone, his presence was felt everywhere. In the volunteer work his parents did, in the letters of encouragement they received, and in the hearts of everyone who had heard his story. His wish had not only fulfilled a dream, but had transformed his family and touched the lives of countless others. And in quiet moments, when Maria and David visited the cemetery or spoke about Ethan's courage, they could feel him there with them, smiling, proud of the difference his simple wish had made. His life had been brief, but it had been full of meaning, love, and inspiration. Through his story, people were reminded that even small hearts could hold great courage, and even a single wish could leave a legacy that lasts forever. Ethan's final wish had become much more than a visit to the tomb guards. It had become a lesson for the world, that kindness, courage, and the willingness to honor others could transform lives. The boy who had dreamed of seeing the tomb guards had inspired his family, touched a community, and left a mark on the hearts of everyone who heard his story. In the end, Maria and David understood that life's greatest gift is not measured by its length, but by the love, courage, and impact we leave behind. Ethan's journey had taught them that even in the face of loss, hope and humanity could shine through. His story remained a beacon of light, reminding everyone that even the smallest wishes, when pursued with sincerity and courage, could change the world.